the ethnicity of one of our other main characters coming up. But this guy, Whitey, this is what I was starting to do with Whitey. He was a white kid. He was just sniveling like Dan has been designing it. Sniveling little, annoying white kid. And Dan had done these great drawings too. His posture was always like this, especially in the real world. Bent neck, weird. The way he would look would be awkward. Just fleshing out how much we would see of him. Color past. Henry was really specific about different colors. That's why we'll get to that one with Babinski. And then in the other world, YB's head would come up and he'd look more normal and presentable. His body would still be weird. But then, when we changed the ethnicity of this little ghost girl, it affected this character. If you haven't seen the movie, I won't ruin it. It changed his ethnicity. So we tried just color first. But then we went in and based on that last drawing, I forget who sculpted them, but his shapes changed a little bit, and Henry changed them a little bit even in the sculpt. And then I went in and really fleshed out what he would look like, feel like, and move, and how big his mouth could get. His mouth shapes are great in the final movie too. It's just super fun. That's just how specific we got. It was great. The ideas of Stitches in Otherworld and Monsters of Space. Then, Mr. Babinski. Off of Dan's, I was just trying to flesh this guy out. I'm like, okay, how is he going to move? How's he going to bend? And yell down. He's the guy who lives upstairs. And he was just a small dude. He was just like, 5'8". Just a normal dude. He loved to exercise, and that's all we knew. And then one day, Henry, we were in a meeting in Shannon, and Henry was like, I don't know. It just doesn't, he looks weird in the lineup. Everything's just normal.
And Shannon spent weeks on these drawings.
Fleshing out.
We leave the meeting, and our coordinator, Sarah, comes up, and she says, I just talked to Henry. He thinks Mr. Babinski should be a giant.
And that came from nowhere. We're like, a giant? What are you talking about? But we did it. I'm like, well, that changes things. Now I was gonna talk to Coraline, and he's like, I want him to be like 13 feet tall. We're like, what? We honestly were like, what are we doing? But then we took, I started playing around with how we would interact. Sorry about the holes. These are things that we had to address. I'm like, how would he interact now with these characters with Coraline who's a kid? We did these things, and then we put them in the lineup. Shannon did the lineup you'll see earlier. There's just black shapes in the lineup, and that lineup looks so freaking beautiful. And what Babinski turned into was so incredible. Now it's just a huge man living in a small apartment, and how he has to interact with all the characters now is brilliant, beautiful, beautiful. Again, Henry, mad genius. Other early Babinski head studies, fleshing out things without a mustache. Early other Babinski playing around. Then you'll see what Shannon did with it later. And then some animals, playing with the Scotty dogs. The Scotty dogs were hilariously fun. I only worked with these guys for a day. These guys are what ended up in the movie. Specifically, the one at the middle, the gray big one in the middle. Henry just looked at that for some reason. He goes, that's it, give it to Milton. So Kent Milton took it and sculpted it, and I give honestly the credit to Kent Milton for making those little Scotty dogs amazingly entertaining in their faces and their teeth. Fun. Yeah, other salamanders goofing around that used to be in the film. These little bastards playing with button-eyed rats. Just gross, sick. Just wanted to look gross. And then these little guys that are
got some kid real rat in the house.
No, but the little guy, you see my shadow. That guy is what Henry responded to on that page, and that became our little dancing mice. Bobinski's Mice Band. So yeah, it was exciting to see these guys get sculpted too. It was fun. And then tons of background characters that we took over and did. Kids in the town. Again, for this, Henry let us go to town, like let us go crazy. He heavily, suggesting Searle, Ronald Searle. Then, at the last minute, you saw Dan's early movers. At the last minute, Henry lost a really good friend on a couple of films, Joe Ramp. And he came up to me and he's like, Shane, I want to put Joe in the film. I want to do this. And I want his brother in it too. They're going to be the movers. I'm like, whoa, okay, that's amazing. Are you sure you want me to do that? So we looked up, we pulled resources basically. John Musker, director of Disney, amazing caricaturist, sent us caricatures that he had done of Joe and friends from all over. We sent tons of references and photos. So we just sat down and did a few dozen things. But that's Joe on the right. I hope that everyone, if you know who he is, I hope you recognize him. And then his brother Jerome, the sculptor at Pixar, is on the left. If you don't know who Joe Ramp is, you'll find out. You can look it up. But, so that was one of the last things I did on the thing. Super fun. Then, this was the truly last minute thing. The last, months before the movie came out, they were running out of time. They did a test screening, and people were asking questions about the end of the movie. And who was this, and why was this ghost girl like this? And Henry called out of the blue, was like, Shane, we need the fastest design ever done in stop motion animation. The pet Milton's on the plane right now, so you have to say yes to design this character. So it was Wybie's grandmother they needed. And so I sat down, I had about a day to sit down and flesh out what Wybie's grandmother looked like. And he sent me photos of this famous jazz singers that he really loved, female jazz singers and things. So I just cranked out a few different things. That was kind of like the lady from the Matrix on the I was playing with. But really, she had to be really old, like 100 years old or something. Really went to town. So they took these, I just threw them all at Henry. He's like, these are great. We're going to let Kent go crazy. So if you see the movie, you'll see it's the last character you see in the movie. But that's what that turned into. But also I brought a couple little fun things. Where would those be? There we go. After all that, Henry, again, came up. There we go. Came up, and again, he knew I was an animator in the past, and he's like, I want you to design all the expressions and mouth shapes. I want you to test these things. I want these to be the coolest face animation that's ever been done. Stop motion. I'm like, okay. So, sat down and started. Here's a couple tests. Hopefully these will, let's see. Let me open a couple of these here. Oh, okay. I'll do these one at a time. This was the very, very, very first test ever done for Coraline. Again, it's very rough, very early. It's not as sexy as it ended up being in the final day. And again, we were playing with the separation. We could control the eyebrows separately from the mouth. It's a new thing that was done, and you'll read about it in some book, I'm sure. So the expressions are just popping into place. I don't know if there's sound, actually. Let's try. Damn, there's no sound. What? Can you guys even hear that? Or the two people up front?
You just do the line.
Yeah, ready? Yeah. Can you guys hear that at all?